I'm Nicole Janeway Bills, founder of Data Strategy Professionals. And with me is my colleague, John. We are going to talk to you guys about the business value of leading AI governance frameworks. So over to you for your introduction, John.
Sure. John O'Donovan. I am a independent contractor that works on data strategy and data governance best practices, and I've partnered with Nicole to help lead CDMP exam training.
Fantastic. A big thank you to our colleague, Mac, not pictured, not in attendance because it is the middle of the night where he lives in New Zealand. Mac Jordan did a lot of our research, almost all of the research for this presentation, and he is quickly becoming our AI governance subject matter expert. Forthcoming blog post on this topic and working on that with Mac so that we can all get all this information down in written form, essentially.
Big shout out to Mac.
Yes, indeed. Okay, some key takeaways that we are hoping that you guys will understand in more detail by the end of this presentation. So we're going to be discussing 7 prominent AI governance frameworks. We will highlight the common best practices that are shared across the 7 AI governance frameworks. And finally, we will wrap up with a conversation about the importance of AI governance for the risk mitigation in your organization and also the potential business value associated with deploying such a framework. So hopefully these will be your key takeaways at the end of the hour. Okay, so to kick things off, AI governance refers to the framework of policies, regulations, and guidelines that can be put in place to help ensure that AI systems are as ethical, as accountable, and as transparent as possible. According to Boston Consulting Group, as business leaders survey the ecosystem of AI governance, they find a hodgepodge of confusing guidelines and frameworks, a lot of mechanisms, but not much clarity on how they fit together or which ones are likely to be useful. This presentation will provide guidance on the selection of an AI governance framework or frameworks for use in your organization. We'll shed light on the business value associated with using AI governance and how that can effectively help you to deploy and operate AI systems.
So this diagram shows a simplified version of the AI system lifecycle stages. This was defined by the working group on AI governance within the OECD, and it was called the technical landscape. This highlights the importance of AI governance frameworks, specifically within deploy and operate stages. At each stage, feedback can be passed back to the previous stage in a continuous improvement and continuous development type of process. And then why does AI governance matter? The exceptional analytical and generative power of current AI, let alone that of increasingly powerful future AI, as we're seeing every day in the news, it presents a series of risks. Now, many large companies prioritize AI risk mitigation, why we have that at the top. While economic benefits do come from mitigating risks, many direct economic benefits also come from AI governance, optimizing how an organization uses AI systems. For example, AI governance platforms are designed to bring together stakeholders involved along the AI system lifecycle to employ best practices to maximize AI business benefits as well as prevent its risks. Among the organizations already implementing AI governance, they appear to face the greatest challenges in successfully completing the planning and resource allocation phase before deployment, especially due to a lack of expertise in the industry, similar to the challenge of just adopting AI itself. Overcoming barriers to AI adoption heavily relies on an organization's ability to implement enterprise-wide AI governance.
Okay, turning now to how AI is so deeply interconnected with the raw material, the data itself. As you would expect, the governance of AI is deeply intertwined with the governance practices around an organization's data. Stanford's AI Index report from 2024 emphasized that data governance is crucial for ensuring that the data used for training and operating AI systems is accurate, fair, and used responsibly and with consent. The absence of strong data practices has already made AI adoption quite challenging for a lot of organizations. TDWI found that only 20% of respondents report having solid data governance program. 40% understand their data sources and have policies in place to govern different kinds of data. So that's quite bad. This is consistent with McKinsey's finding that 70% of respondents struggled with defining processes for data governance and integrating data into AI models. Expanding on this idea of the symbiotic relationship between data governance and AI governance, IAPP and FTI call data management a foundational element to managing AI systems. including the understanding of what data is being used in which system, how it's collected, retained, and disposed, and also if there's lawful consent to use the data. And finally, who is responsible for ensuring the appropriate oversight. Key summary here, there's really no AI governance without data governance first.
No panic though, AI governance will help. We have reviewed 7 prominent AI governance frameworks for enterprise use. So each of these particular public sector frameworks are out there. We'll talk about these, and then we have a few vendor-based frameworks or principles as well. The first one up is the OECD framework for classification of AI systems. OECD, if you're unfamiliar, stands for Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. This is the AI in Work, Innovation, Productivity, and Skills program. This particular framework offers high-level guidance about which dimensions AI will most impact, which risks threaten each dimension, and how risks can start to be approached responsibly. It's primarily targeted at policymakers, regulators, and legislators. Organizations can use the framework to understand what needs to be governed, what risks AI presents across dimensions, and how business might start mitigating these risks. Then there's the NIST AI Risk Management Framework. This is the US's National Institute of Standards and Technology, produced the AI Risk Management Framework in collaboration with public and private sector folks. This framework defines the types of risks that AI presents and proposes 4 functions that enable dialogue, understanding, and activities to manage AI risks and responsibly develop trustworthy AI systems. It is deliberately non-sector specific and use case agnostic so that all organizations and individuals who play an active role in the AI system lifecycle can benefit from its guidance. The next one is a longer acronym. The Council of Europe developed Human Rights, Democracy, and the Rule of Law Assurance Framework called HURAF. It was developed by the Alan Turing Institute. This framework is deliberately algorithm neutral and practice based to remain inclusive of different AI applications and adaptable to future developments. It is focused for designers, developers, and users of AI systems who seek to minimize risks, providing practical tools for organizations to meet their human rights obligations while developing trustworthy AI systems. And then the last one on the screen is Singapore's Info Communications Media Development Authority, IMDA, and Personal Data Protection Commission, PDPC. They developed the Model AI Governance Framework in collaboration with industry stakeholders. The framework provides guidance for organizations developing AI solutions at scale, translating ethical principles into concrete governance practices, and it offers flexible guidance that organizations can adapt to their needs. It is deliberately designed to be sector agnostic, technology neutral, and applicable to organizations of any size or business model.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk a bit about the vendor-based sourced frameworks. First one is Microsoft's Responsible AI Standard. This is designed to guide AI system development based on the principles of fairness, reliability, privacy, security, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. It was designed for Microsoft's product development, but then it was made publicly available to share the learnings from that team and then contribute, of course, to the broader conversation about AI governance. The next one is AWS Cloud Adoption Framework. This one offers organizations a comprehensive roadmap for enterprise AI adoption. It outlines an AI maturity model and it uses 6 perspectives: business, people, governance, platform, security, and operations. So, final one is Google's Secure AI framework, which translates security best practices into a practical implementation guide around 6 core elements, with an emphasis on integrating security considerations throughout the AI lifecycle. And just to give you a quick preview of where we're going now that we've introduced these frameworks, we're going to talk about the timeline and then we'll proceed to providing our in-house ratings of each of these frameworks to give you a sense of how useful we think these frameworks are across a risk mitigation and a data management dimension. So John will get into that in just a moment, but first we're going to take a look at the timeline.
So this is just an illustrative timeline. It shows the evolution of the various governance framework beginning in 2019. So there may be some of the principles that were developed earlier. There have been maturity iterations along the timeline as well, but you can see starting in 2019, Singapore and Microsoft were fairly early out the door with their particular principles guidance, followed later by OECD and the other vendors. And then our assessment methodology. So as we got into doing the comparisons across the frameworks, We have categories or best practices we explored for assessing the frameworks. Only the risk mitigation and data management categories could really be effectively evaluated using the more established taxonomies as benchmarks for what constitutes relevant and specific guidance. And in the guidance assessment criteria, right, we had the breadth, depth, and practicality, which is a rough indication of the range of risk mitigation and data management best practices that a framework offers guidance on. The depth, right, which is specificity and volume of detail that content involves, for example, specific terminology and thorough explanations. And then the practicality, which is the degree to which the content is explicit on how to conduct governance practice, for example, specific step-by-step guidance. In our next page, we show the illustration of our assessment comparisons. The color code here and going across the categories, we're showing the balance that can be had between the two major categories and whether they fit the criteria of AI governance versus data governance, right? So data management follows those principles around the DMBOK, and then AI governance follows around the various frameworks. So here we show the OECD framework for the classification of AI systems being fairly balanced between AI governance and data management guidance. The others have their own frameworks associated with data management guidance. So you can find a NIST framework around data management specifically, and that would be separate from what is provided in the guidance here for AI governance, the risk management framework. Very thorough, and we gave it a high score, obviously. If we go to the next one with regards to the vendor-based framework, you can see a similar comparison as well, where we show, in this case, the AWS Cloud Adoption Framework for AI, ML, and Gen AI provides a good balance between the overall risk mitigation guidance and data management guidance. However, the score you'll notice on the risk mitigation guidance around AI frameworks, it's a little bit of a lower score. So it wasn't as strong as the Microsoft principles or the Responsible AI Standard version 2 in the area of AI governance. You would have to refer to a different set of Microsoft principles around data management guidance. And that's how I would go about interpreting these particular matrix.
Yeah, the lay scores may not be bad. They might just mean that information is contained in a different document.
Correct.
And we do have a bit more time today in our Zoom session versus when we gave the presentation at a conference. So if you guys are interested to see the ratings of a specific one of these 7 frameworks, we do have more detailed slides, so you can give that a read later. I think this one just highlights what John was saying about where the information is contained. So not everything is necessarily packed into one framework, where you see some of the frameworks were more balanced across the 2 categories and some were contained a lot stronger information for like risk mitigation over data management or vice versa.
And we also realized that we were publishing this around November. So between then and now, especially at the pace AI is just tracking through the industry, these frameworks are definitely going to be evolving over the course of this year. And we also predict that this year will be the year that you'll see a lot of traction with AI governance and discussion. So the practical implementation of AI is going to force some of the governance questions and should be also forcing the conversations around data governance. Because if you don't have a solid basis of a data foundation, your AI models are going to be a little all over the place.
Indeed. Yes. Very important stuff. So with that in mind, we wanted to highlight some of the common best practices across frameworks.
Common best practices across the frameworks. Each framework has elements that provide guidance and terminology to support the governance concepts. We call out these particular categories: risk mitigation, so risk assessment to establish clear processes for identifying, assessing, and prioritizing risks; transparency with documentation and explanation. The data management category, so high quality data reduces biases and improves model performance. It limits access to sensitive data based on role and necessity. Maintain traceability of data sources to understand how data flows through the AI system. The general governance tasks, just across the board: design of AI systems with a focus on ethical use and human-centered outcomes, right? That's very key in a couple of the frameworks we highlighted. Engage stakeholders to build trust and gain feedback. Practical implementation as you go to deploy these AI models. Conduct regular validation and testing to ensure model functions as intended, with feedback loops for continuous model improvement. Document the AI models comprehensively, covering their design, data usage, and decision-making process.
Okay, we also promised a business case around why implementing an AI governance framework is a good idea that will drive value by both mitigating risks like improving data management, etc. So just to run through this in more detail, AI governance supports improved AI adoption, improved return on investment, enhancements to the trust and reputation of an organization, as well as regulatory compliance. So I just want to highlight one or two benefits per category. First thing with AI adoption, generally having some kind of framework will promote enterprise-wide standardization. That also supports scale and implementation speed. And as John highlighted, the AI technology itself is improving very rapidly. In fact, the kind of cultural change and the AI responsibility practices, these are perhaps more difficult in a way. And so we really feel that leaning on a framework can help to bolster that capability across the organization so then you can deploy AI more quickly. So that is one aspect of the benefits here. Next, improved return on investment. So that can reflect increased revenue from the deployment of AI systems, but also decreased costs. And again, we shouldn't just be looking at cost in terms of the technology, but also cost in terms of the people, process, and cultural aspects of implementation, as well as any savings due to risk mitigation. Next, trust and reputation. So there's been a lot of famous AI incidents over the past couple of years. Basically, deploying AI models, they are a representative, an agent of the organization. And when they make hallucinations or create other problems, then that can really reflect negatively on the company. Having a framework can help support that responsible AI deployment and therefore result in improved customer experiences, reduced churn, and then intangibles like protecting the brand reputation. Final category is regulatory compliance. This is pretty straightforward around making sure that the data that's being used to train the models, the consent is obtained for that specific purpose according to the regulatory regime in the area where the training and data collection is taking place. Another one is explainable AI. This is more important for some industries rather than others, but especially in financial services and healthcare. You really want to see the deployment of AI models where you can trace back the outputs and explain how decisions are being made. So ensuring that the model selection supports that and explainability is carried throughout the AI system pipeline. That's really crucial. And then finally, we also highlighted how AI governance frameworks can help the organization to continue to look ahead and meet the needs of emerging regulations. So, not just the existing regulatory landscape, but also the speed of these models and the regulations that are needed to keep them ethical and responsible. This landscape is moving really quickly. So, having a framework in place can be helpful for forward planning as well.
Especially anybody who runs in a highly regulated industry, having a governance framework has been proven with data governance, right? Having those regulators or auditors come in and they see that you have policies and standards through governance already outlined goes a long way to mitigate any findings that might be popped against your company. Another value benefit for under regulatory compliance for an AI governance framework.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the key takeaway for this slide really is just to show that you could use a trial and error approach to creating and deploying AI systems, or you can avoid reinventing the wheel and instead build on one of the 7 frameworks that we talked about, either by implementing that framework directly or picking those common best practices like John talked about on the previous slide and using that to create a custom framework or approach. But you definitely want to have something in place in order to capitalize on the benefits listed here. In conclusion, what we found when we looked at AI adoption is that businesses seem to struggle most with the barriers related to AI governance in the deployment and operation phases of building an AI system. There's a lot of uncertainty about regulations and also just generally a lack of AI and AI governance expertise. So, therefore, it's super important to leverage a framework in order to responsibly and ethically implement AI.
Absolutely. And so the future outlook, continued evolution of these governance frameworks, also the talent pool will continue to enlarge. So as people become upskilled and in use of AI technologies, as various AI technologies evolve and improve themselves, and as the market starts to shake out leaders and niche players, you'll find that these emerging challenges are addressed. And so a call to action for each of you as you determine whether or not you want to use a particular framework, define an approach to selecting an AI governance framework. So you could leverage our comparison to see maybe where you might want to start. Or if you're particularly aligned with a vendor, check out what their principles are. And then blend that with data management governance principles, evolve with continued advancement in AI capabilities throughout the industry for your particular industry. Pay attention to what regulators are asking you about as well, so that you can blend that into your overall AI governance operating model.
Totally. All right. That is it.
Is anyone actually exploring any one of these particular frameworks, or do they have their own frame? Thumbs up or okay.
We've got one
Nice.
using
Very
NIST.
nice.
Awesome.
Thank you,
That's
Chelsea.
wonderful.
DoD, very good. Yeah, that would make sense, right? They would be very in tune with the US standards and NIST. They probably already used a lot of the NIST principles for other areas. So that would make the most sense. And that one was probably one of the more mature frameworks, right? And
Certainly.
very detailed. The other ones from Europe seem to be more focused on ethical behavior and also the human behavior aspects around AI governance. While NIST has had a little bit broader and a little bit more focus on practical implementation.
Yes. Privacy oriented. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.